Lesson 14. Muladhara Chakra. Mula means root. Muladhara Chakra literally lies at the root of our existence. Not in the feet, but at the bottom of the spine. That's the meaning of the word Muladhara, root or basis prop. Each of the chakras consists of several elements in which you can find, among others, the function of the chakra. So the subtle element of this chakra is earth. There are 5 subtle elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So here you have earth, which is the manifestation of energy into solid matter. Tamatra is this subtle element, earth. In the word Tamatra you see matra. Matra means matter, but interestingly it also means mother. Mother Earth. You can contemplate on the deep and historic meaning of that word. The subtle vehicle of action, karmandriya. You see the word karma, which means do. So this is the subtle vehicle of action, is the active function of this chakra. Excretion. All forms of excretion, like going to the toilet, but also sweating from the sweat glands. The production of hormones from the various glands in the body that are responsible for that, but also excretion in the form of giving birth to a baby when you're pregnant. The subtle organ of perception, Snanandriya. You see there the word Snana. You remember? Kriya, Snana, Karma. The 3 stages you go through in development. Snana means wisdom or knowledge. So the subtle organ of perception in Sanskrit is Snanandriya, which is the smell function. Subtle energy is Apana-prana. The color associated with this chakra is red. Very interesting detail. And the mantra is not so important for us, but that's Lam. Excretion. Let's talk shit. Let's talk poop stories. We talked about energy in the previous session, and that energy is something that most people do not recognize. Here you have a chakra where energy is very clearly palpable if only you know where to look, if only you pay attention. So this is your homework for this week. And it starts now. When we have a break, you go to the toilet, pay attention to why you are going to the toilet. What is it that makes you get off your cushion or mat and put on your slippers and go to the toilet? You think maybe that it is a thought, but the thought is only an intermediate step. It starts with a whirl of energy. A whirl of energy in Muladhara Chakra that alarms you. And that is not even a subtle energy. It's very obvious. But since you were born with it, and it happens several times a day, you don't even notice. But if you want to understand energy, and we have to, in order to practice pranayama, which is a big step forward on the ladder of our development after asana, we have to start paying attention to this. You know that when you need to go to the toilet, you just go. But if you can't, what happens if you can't go to the toilet? And you have to oppress the need to go to the toilet. The longer you postpone relieving yourself, the more untenable it becomes, the more uncomfortable you become, until even the point that it drives you crazy. It's all energy. You recognize this? It's a funny story, but actually it's very practical. This is the easiest way to start recognizing energy and how it governs our physical functions. Because everything is energy, and in the end, everything we do starts with a whirl of energy. Often very subtle, but in the case of needing to relieve ourselves, it's not subtle at all. And the longer you wait, the bigger the discomfort, the bigger the whirl of energy becomes that is shouting, crying for you to finally go to that restroom. The smell function works two ways. When there is a blockage of energy in Muladhara Chakra, it has various implications. Excretion is not working well. There are indeed people, or at certain stages in our lives, that although we exercise, we don't sweat or sweat very little. On the other hand, there's also times in our lives that we do very little but sweat profusely, sweat a lot, excessively. That is related to Muladhara Chakra. Also, when we lack energy, apana prana, in Muladhara Chakra, we often deal with obstipation. We can't go to the toilet, or it's very difficult and maybe sometimes even painful. Caesarean section that women sometimes need when birth of the baby doesn't go smooth. Birth is a form of excretion. If there is no apana prana, that power needed to push the baby out isn't there, which can then lead to trouble, can even lead to death if there is not a medical intervention to get the baby out through caesarean section. To take care of this energy, all we need is movement. Apana prana is the energy that is generated by movement, any kind of movement. It can be yoga, it can also be a jog or a bicycle ride or work, for that matter, physical work. Any kind of movement generates apana prana. So it is important to move for the functioning of the body. You can meditate a lot, do energy control a lot, but in the end the body is a simple organism that functions based on energy, and that energy needs to be generated. So movement always remains an important element of our daily life. Smell, literally, smelling through the nostrils, the nose, is affected by a lack of harmony in this chakra. If there is harmony, people with harmony in Muladhara Chakra generally are above average sensitive to smells. People who have no harmony in the chakra can have a very poor sense of smell. But there is an interesting aspect to this. When there is harmony in this chakra, our body smell, odor, our scent is nice, is pleasant. The other side of the coin is, if we are unstable, filled with fear, anxiety, so disharmony in Muladhara chakra, the body smell can become very pungent and basically just bad, have a bad body odor. So having a body odor, a bad smell, is not solved by perfume, but is solved by working to restore harmony in Muladhara chakra. Because it has many implications. Apart from the smell, it has many implications physically and psychologically. So excretion is disturbed, is hampered by lack of harmony in Muladhara chakra, but also our emotional and mental well-being is severely affected by disharmony in the chakra because it leads to anxiety, fear, doubt, worry are all caused by disharmony in Muladhara chakra. It's what people suffer most from in life. Fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, and what have you. Remember at the introduction workshop I gave you an example of children in school. This is very applicable here because the developmental stage of Muladhara chakra is from 0 to the age of 7, approximately 7 years, give or take. During that time, it's for a proper healthy development into adulthood, it's very important that in that early stage of life, from birth to approximately 7, that the child is in a very safe, secure environment. When a child is in a very safe, secure environment, it thrives in its development, physically and mentally and emotionally. It is because of this that children, as an adult, you often have no memory of life before the age of 7. And the memory that you have is very scant, very rare, but often most people have barely any memory of life before the age of 7. We have memory only when, in case of big events, like moving house is something that turns not only the life of adults upside down, also children being uprooted from the place that they are familiar with and having to leave their playmates behind, and an uncertain future, not knowing if they can find new playmates. Or traumatic experiences. People who have experienced traumatic events in early life, they often also have memory of early life. So, stability, safety, security, sattva in Muladhara chakra, not only in this age bracket is important, it's always important. It's what we always try to achieve instinctively, to establish a home where we can be safe and secure. The example of children that I talked about in the workshop is as follows. When you were yourself an elementary school student, you remember that there were children in the class that didn't go along. Their score is very low at the end of the semester. They perform very poorly intellectually, have difficulty understanding the material that the teacher is teaching to the kids. And they often show trouble behavior also, like being quarrelsome with other kids, fighting with other kids, not being social with other kids, being very selfish in a way, and rebelling against the teacher, not cooperating, being obstructive towards the teacher. You say then, this kid is a troublemaker. Sometimes they are even removed from the school in extreme situations and they have to find another school. The parents have to find another school. The opposite side is children that are at the top of the class. They have the highest scores at the end of the semester. They are very social with other students. They never fight. They are considerate and what have you. They are thriving. With what we know, the answer is not to punish the child or to remove the child, but we need to look at what is the cause of this distraction, because it's always to be found in Muladhara Chakra, and with that, it is the environment that the child grows up in that is responsible for that kind of behavior. The child that is at the top of the class could easily become a troubled child if the circumstances change in such a way that the child's life is being threatened. Because of a traumatic experience, abuse, because the parents divorce, war, of course, is a huge influence. But the child that is unstable, doesn't behave well, that scores very low intellectually, can improve if the child's basic circumstances are improved, and those circumstances are to be found at home. If you take a closer look, you see that the child is part of a dysfunctional family where the parents fight with each other on a regular basis, where there is no regular routine in terms of waking up, having breakfast, getting prepared for school, coming back from school, having a cup of tea with a cookie, those kind of things, dinner, bedtime, all these kind of things have a huge influence on a child's well-being, and in particular on Muladhara Chakra. Children that are so unstable and living in anxiety often wet their pants, even still at the age of 6, 7 years old, where that should not happen anymore. Why does that happen? Because the instability in Muladhara Chakra leads to explosions of energy which are responsible for excretion. And so they involuntarily, suffering a bout of anxiety, they involuntarily let their urine go. And there, I think, in English, in Korean, also in Dutch, Polish, you have expressions that relate to fear and soiling your pants. The word shitty pants comes to mind. A shitty pants is a child that is a coward, scared of spiders or, shitty pants, a little bit a funny word, of course. But why? The reason why is that because when struck by instant fear, also as an adult, it is possible that you lose control over your bladder and your bowels when struck with terror. And when I wrote this handout, that's about 23 years ago, you had at that time the Intifada taking place in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Israel, people rioting against the authorities. And rioting people are whom? It's always young boys, because it is exciting. Rioting is exciting. They know very little about politics. Often they don't even know exactly why they are there, rioting, throwing stones, hurling Molotov cocktails, but it's the excitement that attracts them to the rioting. But you saw frequently in the news images of these boys being caught by the security forces. And because they have heard from their brothers, their friends, and their uncles that if you get caught, they're going to beat you up. They throw you in a jail, and they're gonna abuse you. They're gonna hit you. They're gonna torture you. The moment that they are caught, they're so scared. They're being led away. You look. If you know where to look, you see the wet stain in their pants. They just, out of sheer terror, relieve themselves. That's Muladhara Chakra. So very important for this, as the basis, literally and figuratively, of our existence, is to establish safety, security, and stability. And if you don't have that temporarily in your life, the first thing you need to do, the first affair of business you have to take care of, is re-establishing that stability.
And how do you do that?
Understand what is causing the instability. For example, you are in a relationship based on which you build your life, your stability, your future, etc. The relationship might end at some point, causing huge turmoil. And that turmoil is mainly in Muladhara Chakra. That is why you have a stomach ache. That is why you lose weight, because your metabolism goes in overdrive when you're in such a condition, because your whole lower body is in turmoil. So what you need to do is routine. Stick to your daily routine. Remind yourself of the fact that the turmoil with time will fade away. But most important, stick to your routine. Do not stay in bed because you feel bad, because you feel hurt, because you... No, get up. Start cleaning the house. Reorganize. Go to work. Do not call in sick. Go to work. It's hard, it's difficult, but it is the routine that gives Muladhara Chakra stability. And when you maintain certain level of stability, you'll be much better able to deal with the turmoil. The turmoil you cannot avoid, but how you deal with it, that is something that you can definitely manage and influence greatly. And most important is, take good care of yourself. Keep eating well, keep exercising well. But often when we are in turmoil, those things fall by the wayside. We start neglecting ourselves. It just makes things worse. Stick to your routine. Go to the supermarket, buy good foods, not the microwave things, but good food, healthy food. Take good care of yourself. Continue exercising. And stick to your routine, and you'll be much better able to deal with any challenge that is ahead of you because of the big change or the pain that you are dealing with. Routine, also for children, is the most important ingredient in children's lives, but as adults, it's just the same. That's why my life as a yogi is very boring. Daily routine, 7 days a week. It's boring, but not in a negative way, because it's super stable. And super stable means that you feel really good overall, generally. The color red. Where do you see the color red? Have you ever been to Amsterdam? Where do you go as a tourist? You visit the red light district. What is a red light district? They sell sex. The function of Muladhara Chakra is instinctive sex, instinctual sex, animal sex. So not with romance, not with eroticism, but just pure raw sex. The color red, subconsciously, without you knowing it, has a huge influence on the choices that you make in your life. And the marketing industry knows that. The most successful brands, the most profitable global brands, without exception, no coincidence, they all use red. McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Marlboro, tobacco, all red. You know Ferrari? You can buy them in any color now these days. But in the past, Ferrari was a product of passion. In the 50s, after the Second World War, in the 50s, the 60s, it was a product of passion, and the Italians were very proud of it. Not many were produced of those cars. It was not so much about making profit as it was about pride, it was about ego, it was about masculinity. Ferrari in the 50s and 60s came in only one color. Only one color, red. It just appealed to the animal in the person who has money enough who can buy it, to buy it. Now, only for commercial purposes, for commercial reasons, to make more money, they allow you to buy a blue or a yellow or a gray or a black Ferrari. But those colors did not exist in the beginning of Ferrari. Because of this. And it is this color red harmonizes, in fact, Muladhara Chakra, gives a sense of safety and security, because color, each chakra is associated with a certain color, red, yellow, red, orange, yellow, blue, green. When you have a disharmony in a certain chakra, surrounding yourself with the color of that particular chakra, in fact, has a healing effect on your disharmony. So in the case of Muladhara Chakra, it's the color red. Why the color red in the sex industry, in prostitution? Prostitution, red light district, attracts certain kind of men. Many men, maybe most men, will never ever go to a red light district or go to a prostitute to buy sex. You have to ask yourself which kind of people frequent red light districts. It's the people that have issues in Muladhara Chakra. And with that, distorted sexual functioning. And the color red, being surrounded by the color red in the brothel, is harmonizing. So they feel comfortable there. Yeah? It has a huge influence, which we are not even aware of. But the fact that the biggest brands, the biggest and most profitable brands, even when they sell death in the form of tobacco, the fact that they all use the color red, that tells us enough. Yeah? Pay attention to how you might feel attracted to a certain product or article that actually on second thought is not that important after all. Or even on the contrary, you might not be interested in if it were not for the fact that it has a red color. or that the packaging has a red color, or the marketing materials, the sales materials, advertising and so on, using the color red. The importance of Muladhara Chakra for our spiritual development cannot be emphasized enough. Fourth paragraph on page 2. That sounds a little bit odd because spirituality is in the crown chakra, right? And our lowest animal instincts are in fact located in Muladhara Chakra. So how does that work? Well, we talked about Kundalini. We talked about Shakti, which is energy that enters the body through Surya Bindu. Surya Bindu is the sun gate, which is in the center, located in the center of Muladhara Chakra. Through Surya Bindu enters the energy that is responsible for the opening up of the crown chakra. And that is why Muladhara Chakra is so important in our spiritual development. Can you see the link, the connection? If you have a proper chakra chart, which is not the one that I gave you, this was made by one of our students in the past, but some chakra charts are full of symbolism. And Muladhara Chakra often has an elephant as a symbol in the illustration. An elephant, not just an elephant, but an elephant with 7 trunks. And these 7 trunks represent the building blocks that organic life or the physical body is built of, and it has an order of increasing complexity. So it starts with plasma. Out of plasma, blood is created. Out of plasma and blood, muscular tissue is created. Out of plasma, blood and muscular tissue, fat tissue is created. Out of those 4, bone tissue is created. Then brain, marrow and nerve tissue follows. And the last and most complex tissue is egg in women or sperm in men. The reason why this elephant with 7 trunks is symbol in Muladhara Chakra is because it is the root of our existence. It is where energy started to manifest into matter. So you have in the universe energy condensing, becoming gas, continuing to condense, becoming water, liquid, continuing to condense, becoming solid matter. Then within your body you have the same kind of process from plasma condensing into blood, followed by muscular tissue, fat tissue, bone, brain and nerve tissue, and finally egg and sperm tissue. Good. Questions about Muladhara Chakra? Now, we're going to have a short break. Usually people just go back to normal daily business. So before we take a break, I tell you, if you decide to stand up and go to the other side of the building to visit the restroom, do pay attention to what happens in your body that urges you to get up and go there. We need to understand energy. We need to recognize energy. And you will see what seems to be subtle or even something that we didn't even perceive before because we were just not aware of it, is actually very obvious, is very present. It's just because that we were born with it, have lived with it all our lives day by day, we just don't see it, take it for granted. But in order to be able to practice energy control, we must start recognizing it, and start with something funny like going to the restroom, relieving yourself. It's called relieving for a reason. Yeah? Good, let's have a short break then.